Every year there are dozens of terrible light novel anime. It's become a trend to fast track anything that looks vaguely popular even after only a couple of volumes have been released. This has meant two things. The production committee has to find a core staff quickly, and the team have very little time to actually make the show. The result is a horde of anime that lack any visual identity, not just in regards to their animation, but even their backgrounds and compositing can be dull as well. The Detective Is Already Dead and Osamake were in production for just over 1 year. In comparison, Mushoku Tensei took 5 years to finally reach our screens. You can tell the difference yourself, but it's not as if they were animating for half a decade, but rather they were planning and creating the perfect conditions for creating the perfect show. This is otherwise known as pre-production. This video is based on a script written by my fiance, who's a big fan of Mushoku Tensei. I, on the other hand, couldn't stand Rudy as a character and dropped it after 4 episodes. But while I struggle to appreciate the story and characters, I adore the visuals. Hello and welcome to the Canipa Effect. This is an Animator Spotlight on Mushoku Tensei. The talks first started at Kadokawa back in 2016. Mushoku Tensei is an influential series and serves as one of the biggest inspirations for the horde of isekai anime we get today. As far as whether it should get an anime adaptation, that was a no-brainer. The first step was in reaching out to a production company called Egg Firm. They handle stuff like Sword Art Online and Danmachi. The head of the company, Nobuhiro Osawa, read the first 3 volumes of Mushoku Tensei and concurred. It needed an anime. And in 2017, he agreed to help make it. But the guy got a bit obsessed. In one sitting, he read the 9 following volumes of Mushoku Tensei, everything that had been published up to that point, and decided that it shouldn't just be any old anime. It shouldn't just be handed over to whatever schmuck walks through the door. It needed a superstar team that could deliver the story and visuals perfectly. It needed Studio White Fox, the animation team behind Re:Zero. But they were busy. White Fox president Gaku Iwata instead suggested that Osawa create his own studio and offered to help him do it. Re:Zero served as a kind of ideal for Mushoku Tensei's production. It told a powerful coming-of-age story through its animation and direction, while still condensing the source material into 25 episodes. White Fox invested in this new studio while also providing production support on Mushoku. Meanwhile, Osawa hired his friend Toshio Otomo to become the president of this brand new team. At this point, his job was just to form new connections with anime creators, and so he literally titled it Studio Bind. It's not the worst reason for a studio name. 8-Bit is literally called that because the president really liked NES games. Otomo was the one to find the series director, Manabu Okamoto, and so now we finally had the 3 O's of Mushoku Tensei: Chief Producer Osawa, Studio President and Animation Producer Otomo, and finally, Series Director and Lead Screenwriter Okamoto. He'd previously directed episode 8 of Re:Zero and quickly became a huge fan of Mushoku Tensei as well. He was dedicated to the idea that the story and visuals should be intertwined, and that meant that he took on a load of work. I mentioned that he was both director and lead screenwriter, but he also storyboarded the first 3 episodes himself. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to adapt Mushoku Tensei, but it was the first time one would actually make it to screen without getting canned on the way, and so he wanted to make sure that it was done right.
やりすぎでしたか?
But even with all that lead time, they were still struggling with getting everything done. The characters age up and they move around a lot, from one completely original fantasy location to another. This meant there were loads of design materials to create, and in an effort towards perfection, there were years of trial and error. By the time they were ready to announce the show, they still hadn't completed the designs, so everything in the phenomenally well animated teaser video was made just for that teaser, while the rest of the team figured out what the actual show would look like. It didn't help that they'd initially slated it for 2020, which would have put the heat of production during the worst of COVID. But what was important is that they had the support to be able to delay it. It aired in 2021 instead, and they managed to get the second cour delayed by an extra season as well. It made sense to the investors, because they weren't just investing in one show, but instead in a team that could create something that truly felt premium. And that's what we got. Something premium. First episodes are definitive. It's the time to put your best foot forward and get all those skeptical light novel readers to shut up. When a loser dies in real life, all of that web novel prose blossoms into a visual elysium. The Six-Faced World is crafted by several different background studios across the series, emphasizing how different each region is. But at first, it all starts in the large European Grey Rat house. I mentioned before that Mushoku Tensei is heavy on design work, and that's pretty clear here. Rudy has 6 different baby designs, and his mannerisms are portrayed with exacting detail. He may be a creep in a baby's body, but he still moves and explores the environment in a realistically childlike way. Eventually he grows up, physically not emotionally, and he discovers magic. Every anime has its own way of visualizing spells, and it's often based on stuff like Final Fantasy, with big symbols and flashy lights. But in Mushoku Tensei, it's all about the elements themselves. The big scene in episode 1 where Rudy blasts apart a wall was animated by Hiroyuki Takashima, and it basically represents the whole show. There's so much that one scene can tell us. Rudy has power that he doesn't quite understand. Magic can be both destructive and life-giving, and also, most importantly, magic can open up the world. Up until this point in the episode, every scene had been indoors, but Rudy broke down the walls literally and was able to see the world for the first time in a while. The portrayal of magic in Mushoku Tensei is something that is always worth looking forward to. The Saint Tier spell in episode 2 by Ryuta Yanagi was just showing off. It's almost like an unwritten rule of Mushoku Tensei that the more powerful the magic, the more impressive the animation. And to achieve it, they've reached across the entire industry and found some extraordinary animators. Egg Firm and Studio Binds did have plenty of connections when they first started planning the show, but they've managed to reach out even further to nail down Mushoku Tensei's greatest scenes. And behind the scenes, they were arguing over who got to do specific cuts. It's a fantasy world with magic, sword battles and cute characters. It covers a lot of different fields and interests, and combined with its firm pre-production that had all the plans laid out, it became an enticing show to work on. I spoke about magic, but the animation of Mushoku Tensei has many highlights. If you love the characters, then the character animation is the biggest way in which you see their personalities come to life. And because the show is so effective at realistic character motions, it's fun when the animators get a bit cartoony with it, like Toshiyuki Sato's Kirishika scene in episode 12, or KU's Eris scene in episode 17, where she goes from a threatening warrior to a tiny gremlin in seconds. Speaking of Eris, despite the fact that she doesn't use magic all that much, she is still one of the most important parts of Mushoku's action. Sword duels are one of those things that can look amazing in animation, but a lot of it glosses over the swordplay to show something a bit more flashy. And yeah, while it is satisfying watching Ghislaine unleash her sword god style, what I found even more valuable were the sword fighting scenes where Eris is still learning new skills. It takes skill to choreograph good swordsmanship, but there's an extra dimension to portraying a character that still fucks up. It's visual growth. In the novels, you get Rudy remarking on how Eris has gotten better with the swords, but it's even better to be able to see it for yourself. In episode 6, it's satisfying to watch her beat up Rudy, but you can also kind of tell that she's rough around the edges. Over time, we see her train and watch as her scenes get cooler and cooler. The fighting styles of Mushoku have the characters move in entirely different ways, and it doesn't take long for Eris to combine what she's learned to become a flashy fighter herself. Adaptation isn't easy, especially in an industry that's being stretched to the limits. It's hard enough getting a series finished, let alone giving it its own unique visual identity. And I'll make this pretty clear. I don't like Mushoku Tensei, but you know what? It's not my opinion that matters. One of the biggest reasons this kind of adaptation was able to happen was because a powerful anime producer loved the story. And instead of letting it get churned out as a part of Kadokawa's regular marketing schedule, he planned something special for it. It's the ultimate quality over quantity move. And of course, I'm jealous. Slime Isekai's second season barely moves, and every episode of Mushoku Tensei is solid gold. Yeah, I'm gonna take that fucking personally. But this shows that it is possible. It shouldn't just be Mushoku that receives this kind of prestige treatment, but an industry reformation is necessary if we want to see more light novel adaptations that shine like this. Thanks for watching The Canipa Effect. This video script was based on a whole bunch of research and writing done by Frogkun, who loves the books and the show. I just came in to make it sound a bit better for video and to complain about Rudy a few times. But before I go, I'd like to thank these incredible people for supporting the channel. In particular, I'd like to thank Austin Hardwick, Dedameat, Eddie Leheka, Edwin Shale, Faux Wizard, Frizzy Canadian, Frogkun, Fujay, Jacob Bosley, Jawburst, JR Pictures, Korhai, My Own Mother, Naylor Drink, Nolan Soga, Quentin Alkin Smith, Ryan Taylor, and Toma Rahman. If you'd like more animation spotlights like this, maybe even on shows that I've actually seen, then please support patreon.com/thecanipa effect.